Hey guys, today in class we will be transitioning to our next unit of study, which will be on 3D modeling. This is a topic that hopefully you talked about in the first year course of engineering, Project Lead the Way, Intro to Engineering Design. But because we are transitioning to remote learning, I thought this would be a good opportunity for us to not only kind of review some of the old stuff, but as well as kind of get you guys familiar with the tool that we will use as the platform for 3D modeling on campus, which is Onshape. All right, so first things first, make sure that you have Schoology open and you have seen what's in the Thursday folder. So if you open the folder, you'll see what your assignment is today. The end goal of today's class is to create these blocks in Onshape, and you will be making these on your own. If you open the assignment, it tells you what kinds of blocks you'll be creating. So you'll be creating a rectangular block, a triangular block, a cylindrical block, and an arch block. And we'll talk about how to do this in class, but ultimately it will be your responsibility to learn how to use the tools in Onshape to do that. So first things first, how do we use Onshape? Well, to open Onshape, we open a new tab, and you always go to myips.onshape.com. Again, we're always going to access Onshape from the same place. It's always myips.onshape.com. Now, when you log in the first time, you will need to go in through Clever first, because you should already have an email in your IPS email to set up your account. So go into Clever and look for the button that says IPS email. And it should look like this. It's a little mailbox with an O. So go into there and you're going to search for an email that says Onshape. So if you go to search and you type in Onshape, you should have an email that is from Onshape that says welcome to Onshape. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the beginning of my entire life, and the email should say your Onshape account is ready. Again, it should say your Onshape account is ready, and you're going to click on this blue button that says activate your account. Now some of you guys have already done this, and so this is a step that you may not have to take. If you don't have this email in your inbox, you need to tell me as soon as possible so I can get your account set up. So you're going to click on activate your account. It's going to take you to a screen where you're going to set up your password, as well as do some acknowledgments of I agree to the terms of use, blah, blah, blah. So make sure that you get that registration form filled out as soon as possible. Once you get signed in, you're always going to log in with your IPS account. So your account information will be your student ID number at students.myips.org. Again, your student ID number at students.myips.org. It should be the exact same email address that you use to log into Microsoft Teams. The password is going to be whatever you set it to be, so I can't help you with that. So when you log into Onshape, for the first time, it's going to have like a big annoying pop-up window that's asking you to do a tutorial or whatever. We're not going to do that right now because I'm going to show you the basics. So first things first, when you log into Onshape, you have these 4 tabs up here. We will spend the majority of our time in this class in the Documents tab. So make sure this is the view that you have. Now there are several documents that I have shared with the entire district of Onshape users. So you'll see those listed there, and you can't delete them, so just leave them there. We are going to click on this big old Create button right here, and we're going to click on Document. Now, because we are making the document for our Onshape blocks, we are going to name it Onshape blocks, but we also need to add a couple other things because I have a lot of classes for engineering. And so the way that we name our files is going to be very specific. So we will always name every file that we make in Onshape with these things. So the first thing that we'll put in the name is the class period, which for you guys is 4A. Then you'll put your last name, and then your first name, and then today's date, which today is the 19th if you are watching this recording during class. Then we put the actual description of the file, or the real name. And so for this, it's going to be Onshape blocks. So again, this is what we will do for every assignment. For your last name, your first name, today's date, which happens to be the 19th today, and then the title of the document. And again, the reason that we do this is because I have over 150 users on Onshape, and it makes it easy for me to find your work if it's named this way. So as an example, I have sorted all of these files by name into folders for all users, so that way I can easily find each student's work. It makes it easier for me to give you points. So if you are like one of these people in the IED folder who did not follow the naming conventions, then you don't get points for your assignment because you didn't put your name on it. So please make sure that you do that. So when you open a file for the first time, the amount of information that is in front of you can be a little bit intimidating. So I want to walk you through each of the kind of the key things that we're looking at here. So the first is that we've got this little feature guide over here, and I'm just going to push this out of the way by clicking this button right here. So we've got this menu up here, which we've got a lot of different features that we can use. The most important one is the sketch button. We'll talk about that in a second. Now, in the middle of our screen, we have 3 squares, and these represent the angles or the different perspectives that we can look at a 3D model. So we've got front, right, and top. And if you look over on this side, we've got this little guy right here. This is called the view cube, and we can click on the view cube to change the angle that we're looking at our 3D model. So if I click on top, I get an overview of the model. If I click on front, I see the front face of the model. And if I click on right, well, yeah. The top right corner here of the front view, this is what we will refer to as the isometric view. And this is what you will primarily use when you take screenshots of your models for submission. So when we work with 3D models in CAD software, if we want to make something 3D, we first have to make it in 2D, which means that we start with a drawing or a sketch of our design, and then we can extrude it or use one of these tools to bring it into 3 dimensions. So as an example, today I'm going to make a cube. So I'm going to create a new sketch. Now there are like 3 different ways that you can start a new sketch. My preferred way is to use for me, it's right click and click on new sketch. If you are working on your Chromebook and you don't have an external mouse and you're using your touchpad, you can press the Alt key on your keyboard and then click. So Alt click, new sketch. You can also click the sketch button up here and then click on the view that what you want to work in. So sketch and then front. So I'm going to go ahead and do it the way that I do it, which is Alt click, new sketch. And you'll notice that when I did that, I got this little pop-up bubble right here. So this is our sketch bubble, and this just tells us that we are in sketch mode. If you click this little checkbox, it will close sketch mode, and we will not be able to work on our sketch. So don't do that. If we click the red X, it will cancel sketch mode, and anything that we've done in the sketch will go away. So also don't do that. So I'm just going to push this guy over here, and I'm going to open this feature bar again so you can see that now we have in our model, we have a sketch that's listed there. All right, I'm going to close this again. All right, so I've got a sketch open on my front face, and I'm going to click on front on my view cube so that I'm looking at this from the top down. That way I can think about this as a drawing instead of a 3D model. So if you look at our options here, we have a lot of different shapes that we can create. So since I am creating a cube today, I'm going to use the rectangle tool. But I'm not going to use the one that's here. This is a corner rectangle tool, which will be fine. I can use it to make a rectangle. But I want my cube to be centered on our origin. And if we look at our 3D model right here, In the middle of this space is this little black dot with a circle in it. That is the origin. And it's always, always, always a good convention to start your 3D model on the origin, or for it to be centered on the origin. So I'm going to click on the drop-down box next to corner rectangle here, and I'm going to select center point rectangle. And that's going to allow me to start my rectangle on the origin. And now, after I click, I can move this out to wherever I want it to be. So I'm just going to place it about right here. Doesn't really matter. So now, if I pan, which you can do by right click or alt clicking and then moving with your mouse, it looks like that. Okay, so that's great, but it's not a square. So I'm going to use the dimension tool, which is up here, these two lines with the arrow, to give a specific length to each of the sides of this shape. So I'm going to click on this side right here. And when I do that, it pops out this little arrow, which shows how long it is. So I'm going to make this a 4-inch side. And then I'm going to do the same thing down here on the bottom and click. And remember, a square has sides that are all the same length, right? So we want this to be 4 inches too. So now I have a 4x4 square. And I'm going to click on this green box to finish the sketch. So you can see that my sketch is finished and I've got this gray shaded area here. By the way, if you ever make a sketch and the area on the inside is not shaded like this, it means that you didn't completely connect the lines. It's not a complete shape. So check your drawing, make sure that you didn't miss something. What I'm also going to show you is one of my favorite hotkeys to use in Onshape, which is the home button. So if you press the N key on your keyboard, the N key, it will snap to the view that makes the most sense based on the angle that you're looking at. So if I'm up here and I press the N key, it snaps to top view. But if I'm in sketch mode and my sketch is on the front plane and I'm looking over here and I press the N key, it snaps back to the front face. Just helpful in case you get yourself lost. Okay, anyway. So now my sketch is done, and now I need to make this turn from a 2-dimensional shape to a 3-dimensional shape. So I'm going to use this tool right here. This is called the Extrude tool. And what an extrude does is it moves a 2-dimensional shape into the 3rd dimension. So I'm going to click on the shape. You can see I've got this little extrude bubble here. And we've got a lot of different options in here, and we'll cover those later. But for now, we're just going to click on our shape. And you can see that it is trying to turn it into a 3D shape. In this extrude menu, one of the options that we have is depth, which is basically how big do you want the extrude to be? Well, we're making a cube. So I'm going to make this a 4-inch cube. And I'm going to click on the checkbox to finish it out. So now I have a 4-inch by 4-inch by 4-inch cube that I have completed. Now I could call this a day, but I'm going to do one other little thing just to make this model just a little bit nicer. So if we look up here at our options here, these are all tools that we can use to modify our model now that it's a 3-dimensional shape. So I'm going to use the fillet tool here, which puts a curve on the corners, and I'm just going to click on each of the sides of my model to apply that to everything. And it's just going to smooth the corners out here. If I zoom in here, you can see what this fillet looks like. It's basically just cutting the corner off. So now when I zoom out, you can see that I have a smooth edged cube. And that's where we will stop for now. So that's how you use the tools that you will need in order to complete the tasks for today. Again, the primary thing, you're going to use sketch mode, and you can use the rectangle tools. But if you also see here, we have a center point circle tool, we have a line tool. The only other tool that might be useful to you, which can be found by searching, is the snip, not snip, because it cut. Hold on a minute. If I zoom out, I bet I can find it. Ah, there it is. It's called trim. So you may find that using the trim tool, which I believe actually is hiding in this drop down here. Yep. So this trim tool right here might be useful for one of the models that you have to make for today. Might be. So you may think about that and consider which option may require you to bridge out and find a tool other than the ones listed here. Okay, so hopefully this video has been helpful for you. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a Schoology message, or if you are in person, then you can just ask me, and I would be happy to help you. Well, I'll see you later. Bye.